This video may seem out of touch because we've been conditioned so much to live, like exist in a certain way. So when we try to push outside the norm, establish something better for ourselves, make ourselves happy, it does make us seem unhinged. I live my life completely different to the average person. I'm constantly fighting internally against status quo. So it's not about me trying to change the world. I mean, maybe maybe in some ways you do by talking on issues, but I'm trying to change my world. All I ever seek in my life is to be happy. That's the foundation of which everything's created. What would make me happy? And then you just start to see how the world has created such a delusional, wouldn't say fantasy, but it's just a way of life. It's not conditioned in a way to make us happy. It's to make us miserable and exhausted, stressed. And the one thing that I crave for myself all the time is freedom. It's to diminish our freedom. So again, we can build our own life. We can create different lifestyles. We can build the foundation for something better to fit into what we want for ourselves. But it's not always as easy as it may sound, because everywhere you turn, there's a condition, there's a rule that is set. It's like a foundation for everything that comes after. So it's not easy to transcend it. Put it into context. Money's been tight for me for a long time. I've talked about it before, and I always take ownership of that. Like, it's my decisions I make, make it faulty. But I'm always in this persistent battle with self where I want for my finances to improve, but I want my freedom more. And it's it's really, really hard for me to relinquish my freedom. So I like to have autonomy of my life. I like to have the options to do what I want at a given moment. I don't like to be stifled. I hate to feel suffocated by rules, by an expectation and routine. I'm more of a free spirit. So it bothers me a lot to be contained. But again, we have principles of life in the sense that we have things we need too. And we have dreams, we have desires, we have just things we want. And of course, things we actually need as well. So life's rarely simple at all. So I had an interview process like recently, and it's gone so well. Just boom, boom, boom. I had a telephone one, I had an in-person one, and out of 100 people, they chose me. And initially, I'm thinking this is great, and they're really nice people. It might be more physically demanding than I'm expecting. I don't know until I start. But there's a bit of an issue in the sense that the working hours, it's Monday to Friday, but the working hours are really when there's no wiggle room. So let's say I need a doctor's appointment. I can't have a doctor's appointment. Whenever you need something, it's going to require a holiday day off. Now, I know in some countries don't even get holidays, which is even more freaking mental. But I've already got my holiday allowance used upon taking this job, because I've already booked a holiday for July. So I'm going away in July. I'm taking my daughter to a prom in the end of June. She doesn't live near me, so I'm having to drive the whole way up. It finishes late, so I've got to stay in a hotel. And then I'm going to bring her home with me, ready for this holiday. It's a whole routine, but I know it means an awful lot to her, and it means a lot to me to be there too. And it's just one of those moments where she's not going to forget. That's going to be in her memory, and I think it's important to do that. But it diminishes the days off you have. So how do I do this? And where my housing is, for instance, like my home, I have to have a home inspection every year, and also have to have gas inspections, and they're separate appointments here. So if you're not available, how do you make these appointments? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. The fact that there's certain like opening hours that are just not flexible, and it makes it really hard for your own life to be flexible too. Like I don't know what I can do before I even start the position. I don't even know how I'm going to get through the next few bumps, because there's no wiggle room. So then what matters more? Your home matters more than your job, doesn't it? Because, I mean, you could argue you need the job to pay for the home, but it's a lot harder to find a home. So it makes no sense. So, yeah, I mean, so if it's mandatory that I have these appointments, then I have to do these appointments. And again, it just annoys me that it becomes this stress factor that I didn't ask for. It's not reasonable. And then that goes full circle to the way we perceive jobs. It's that for me personally, and people will put it down to being lazy, but it's not. It's just you've got to get away from the conditioning and think about what a fair life would be. It's not about what is the status quo. We have to get away from that because it doesn't work. And that's why people are miserable. People work too much. Some people think you don't work enough. We're not slaves. And this is where this all comes to be, is that we've been programmed to work. We've been programmed that this is normal. This is what's expected of us. It's not normal, and it shouldn't be expected of us. At the maximum, I think we should be working a maximum of 4 days a week. Maximum 4 days. Now, people are going to say it's lazy. It's like, well, if your whole life is dedicated to work, then so be it. But you're missing out on all the beauty that exists in the world at the same time. There's more to life than just being put in a box. You know, and again, that suffocates me. So I think about the job, and I'm thinking, it's 5 days a week. I know everybody does it, but I've been out of this matrix for ages, and I don't like to feel boxed in like that. How could you give 5 out of 5 days to a job, but then only give yourself 2 days to yourself after? 5 days to this, 2 days to you. 5 days to this, 2 days to you. Yeah, you get your evenings and things, but you're just eating. You're just eating your dinner and recovering, ready for the next day. That's monotonous, but it's exhausting. You know, so like, where does the break come? When does the flexibility come? Where does the part where we get to enjoy ourselves come in? You know, it's just like I said. If you had 4 days a week, it doesn't matter what way it is. You could even do Sunday to what would that work out? Sunday to Wednesday or something. But even I was thinking even in 5 day week. Let's say doing 5 day week. At least if you did Sunday to Thursday, you would have the Friday if you ever had appointments and things. You're getting a Friday. I don't think Saturday weekend always has to be so rigid with the where the day sits. But I do think there should be more fairness within the amount of days you work. Personally, I just think it's so imbalanced. It's crazy. The idea that you live the rest of your life. That's one thing I can't do. I can't commit to that for the rest of my life. It would be impossible to work 5 days a week and only have 2 days off for the rest of my life. You might as well just give up now. You might as well just say this is just pointless. This is ridiculous. That's my life for the rest of my life. And I don't understand how other people put up with it. I really don't. I know people to say, again, I've been there myself. I know what they're talking about. I get it. It's the fear of having nothing. It's a fear of losing something, isn't it? But a lot of people say that. Well, it's easy for you to say blah, blah, blah. It's not easy for anyone to say. It's not easy to be in poverty, is it? I've been in poverty for a long time because of my decisions. But it's a decision to stay in something that makes you miserable for prolonged periods of time. It's also a decision to have less. But it's choices we have to make for ourselves, isn't it? If anyone thinks for a moment, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with very little time for myself, that is really, really are deluded. Everything about me is being happy and freedom. There's no freedom in being boxed in. It works for a period. It won't work forever. And that's because jobs aren't flexible enough. You know, this job pays well. It's a decent paying job for me from a logistics point of view. It just as I joined, there's a little bit of a pay rise. It's nice. So it's 31,500. So you could say £32,000 a year. And I'm like, this is great. For logistics, it's great. You know, normal Monday to Friday. It's just, like I said, it's just the inflexibility. If I was in a relationship, probably help a little bit because then maybe someone else is about so they can help with these appointments if there's something needs doing. And, you know, who knows? But it's that inflexibility that becomes a bit of a hard thing for me overall. So we often lose something as we gain something, and it's just what one matters more. And it's just a perpetual battle. It's like it's so hard to have both, isn't it? It's so hard to have money and freedom. It's hard to have both things at the same time. We have to always sacrifice. And that sends me back round again. I know this is a bit whiny, a bit moany, but it's just a reflection that I'm just like, sometimes it just feels impossible, you know? Even if you have the best of intentions or you have a beautiful vision for yourself, like making it sort of manifest to become a reality is a really hard thing to do. It's not easy for anyone. So, I've always felt that myself. If I see someone successful in life and they do have autonomy, they do have freedom, they do have the ability to travel and just do what they want on a whim, and they have that financial resource behind them, some people look on with jealousy and just and have this opinion that they've sold out, they've done so. It's like they haven't. They've made they've created steps and a foundation to live a life on their terms, and I think that's beautiful. If you haven't done anything nefarious, of course, because I don't believe you should have to sort of like step on people to achieve success. I don't agree with that. So if you've done something where you've fleeced people out of loads of money just so you can have that's not right. That's just draining someone else's resources. You know, yeah. I don't think you have to be cruel. to be successful. But, unfortunately, it's a way that some people do, isn't it, to get ahead. But I think that catches up with you anyway. But like I say, it's this, the programming reaches so many areas of our life. I was sitting there reflecting after I had that moment where I'm thinking about like the fact that I have no autonomy at the moment. If I tell you what, starting this job, I lose so much time. And that's the transaction, isn't it? That's the cost. It's just wild. But then I just thought about my own life, like where I do my books, where I do the videos I do here, where I'm working on my websites, and so I've got all these different projects on the go, and it made me just realize that, yeah, even when you're not in that 9 to 5 routine, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 sort of situation. So even that sounds nice, 9 to 5. My shift, what I'm going to be doing is 42.5 hours a week, so it's actually an extra hour on top of that. And you only get half an hour break. So that bothers me a bit, because I'm thinking where's the breaks? You deserve breaks if you're somewhere long enough. So again, I haven't started, so I don't know the ins and outs. But again, go away from that. We just talk about like my book projects and all the other little things I've got going on. It's a constant pressure of myself. It's like this drive to be successful in some way, It's almost like don't waste time, don't waste life. But I think what ultimately happens is we stop living to a degree. Not in every moment. Of course, people have good days out. They have good moments with people. They just have good experiences. But I think if you was to do a pie chart of the average life, how much of it is stressed? How much of it is working or chores or doing something else? How much of it is free time for self? And how much is it truly happy? And I think that's the scary part for me. And it's something I don't think most people take time to stop and think. They just go into this automated path and existence of, this is what I have to do, this is what's expected of me, this is what I need to do, boom, 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 boom. They're miserable. They don't know why they're miserable. They just know they're stressed, and it just doesn't stop. It's because you don't pivot and change. You don't think like, what would actually make me happy? I can cope with less if I have more for me. So you got to start thinking about how that chart, if you just think of it like a circle, how much of it, like if you think about it like a pie, how much of that are you prepared to lose? Like, let's say the chance is to be, let's say half and half when you start, because you can't expect it just to be like a whole circle of happiness. You have to earn that. Somehow you have to earn your financial freedom to even get a chance to have that. And I think it's very rare for someone to have a complete circle of happiness, because even if the work side of things and the financial freedom, you took away a lot of stresses, the one thing you can never, ever control is love. It's connections, isn't it? You can't force someone to love you. You can't force someone to be able to coexist with you and all those things. And unfortunately, we suffer heartbreaks, we suffer loss, we lose family members. There's always something. There's always some level of instability that's occurring. It's almost like think of like an earthquake. Doesn't matter how strong your pie is, an earthquake can come at any moment and it can transform everything, derail. So I think the idea that everybody can have a full circle of happiness is probably unlikely. Although, some people perhaps, if they're very, very fortunate and they've done all the best things in their life and it's just like the stars have aligned, perhaps. But I think for most of us, there's a level of compromise. So how much this is going to help me with this? Because like work is never truly a bad thing, is it, when it's an income? So, like people are saying, you can have holidays, you can have nice things, you can have like a level of luxury in your life. It helps with experience, doesn't it? In moderation, it helps with experience. But some people don't get paid enough. Some people have to work too hard. And again, I spoke about it in my books quite often about that. Like, you get people do overtime and they don't know when to stop. So maybe they have the finances, but they don't have the free time. So they don't even get a chance to enjoy it. So it's this constant delusion to chase the fool's gold, which I don't understand at all. It should be a means to an end. So work shouldn't be your life. It just supports and supplements the life you want. That's really what it should be. So I think if we go in with the foundation of that, I think the most important thing maybe we need to realize is how much do we need for stability? Because that's really important, isn't it? How much do we need for our stability, and how much money do we need to feel happy and content? And then I think work from there, because I just think everything is there to drain us. Like I say, with the work I do, even I don't realize it sometimes. I'm in it like. I'm in a constant state of sort of duress, really, even if I'm not showing it on the outside. It's like there's just a constant stress on my life where I struggle to relax. Doesn't mean I can't watch telly, doesn't mean I can't do things to relax and enjoy myself. There's always this constant pressure on my life that I always have. And you could wonder, I don't know if that's conditioned or whether it's just innate, but that's a little bit concerning because I feel like time's always running out. So, for instance, I could stop doing what I'm doing, and I just feel it's a waste of potential, and hope perhaps something I stopped doing could have helped someone else. So that I just feel like my life is constantly dedicated to service, even at a detriment to myself, which is quite frustrating, really, upon reflection. Because there's always books on the go. If anyone sees my journey, I've got 2 more books. There was 3 this year, but I've already released 1. So there's 2 more. There's others in the pipeline if I choose to. But it doesn't stop, Once that one's done, I've got another one. And I thought the pressure seems to be multiplying. Instead of it being 1 more books to come, I've got 2. Oh, we've got 3 now. Okay, we've got the 3 more we're going to work on. It's just like, when does you finally get to the end goal, and get to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor? Same like I do the videos. I've done so many already. What, am I going to do this for my whole life? Am I going to sit in front of a camera and do videos on a daily basis and constantly have at this? Because ultimately, where does it end? What is it leading to? I mean, what life do you get after and for and during, So if life's stressful now and it's really hard and it's exhausting, at what point does it stop being those things? And like, for instance, if you stop doing what you do, which is, I think, the biggest fear for most people, does the opportunity stop too? So if you was to stop working, the money dries up, doesn't it? And I think that's the case for most people. Again, passive income changes that. But even then, the only reason passive income is relevant for the most part is because you've made yourself relevant somehow. Of course, you might do it in investments and hope that stocks improve. I don't know anything about all that sort of life. But with me, with my creative pursuits, you could argue that at what I do, there's the potential for passive income. But that passive income is only likely why people are aware of it, Things come and go, trends and fads change, So there's a constant need or drive to be persistent, always be accountable, always be present. Again, so that goes even beyond the traditional sort of work. There's always a pressure over here. And I think for the most people, this is always going to be ever present, isn't it? I mean, even in the creative industry. I mean, maybe people earn enough money, but because I'm trying to think now, if you think about like music artists, we think about actors and people like that, but in the creative fields. Sometimes they create music and then they just go off for a good few years, or sometimes they just vanish altogether. It's like they've made enough money that they're now enjoying the fruits of that labor, So some people might just think, well, a waste of potential, but maybe they think I've already shared what I've got to share, and I don't want to give all of myself to this. I don't want to lose myself to it, and I just want to enjoy life, which is a beautiful way to be too. But I don't know. Like I said, if you're thinking about the level of happiness, it depends on the level of programming, I guess, and the desire within yourself, doesn't it? Because with me, I don't think I would have the ability to do that as much as I would love to. That's the part, isn't it? Again, I don't know if it's conditioned or whether it's just innate. But I don't personally think in me that I would feel comfortable leaving anything left behind, if you know what I mean. So if I have the potential to share some knowledge or to share some insights or something that's interesting to me, I feel compelled to do that. So even if I had the resources not to, there'll always be a part of me ready to share again. And into all these different forms. So again, I just think life's exhausting enough with the pressure we put on ourselves, let alone pressures others put on us, and those expectations. So like for me, I just don't like being put in a confined space of living. I hate it with a passion. So I'm not conditioned to live my life 9 to 5, or shift work. I don't like shift work. I hate it. But there's not enough flexibility within working hours, is there? I mean, to get 4 days a week, you have to work 12-hour shifts and things. It's like that's just not right. No one should have to beat themselves to death just to be able to get some freedom in their life from other days, and then they're burnt out for the other days. So the only way for the average person to be able to have freedom of time is through working for yourself, isn't it? To create your own company, create business, create something for yourself is the only way it's going to be possible, realistically. For the most part, of course, other people, maybe some people live on benefits and they manage to abuse the system and do that. But even then, there's a limit to that. There's nothing to say that's it's infinite. You may reach a point where you get found out, so then you lose that level of benefit, don't you? There might be a cap on the benefit, so you kind of go so far with it. But I mean, that's a completely different side of things. I think a lot of those and that's it. Not again, I don't want to sort of stereotype people because there's people with genuine illnesses and there's issues and things. So it's not about stereotyping an individual, but there are going to be some that exploit a system, aren't there? But then I just think in that sense, there is although we can be exhausted doing work, I think there's I think it's important we have ambitions at the same time, because I think without those ambitions, you slowly deteriorate and die. Even if it's not on the outside, inside. You see it all too often where people have no willpower. They've got no gumption. It's like nothing to inspire them to get up in the morning, to get on with something, to achieve anything. So they're just miserable, and then that misery becomes toxic, and then they drain everybody else as well. So I think we have to have something within us to want to do, but I don't think the way the world is formed is beneficial to anyone personally, apart from those who are looking to exploit everybody else for their own sort of benefit, really. And again, it's not. I wouldn't say this isn't like a pointed attack on business, because it's already the foundation that's been set. It's really hard to break up the status quo, isn't it? So, for instance, I could say on an ideal world, Monday to Thursday, like a 4-day week would be great. But from a business point of view, when other companies and let's say, for instance, you're providing infrastructure, resource, or logistics to another company who demands these things, and they're open Monday to Friday. If you're not open Friday, that could be a problem for that company who needs your support, so they're going to go somewhere else. So look, I'm not stupid. I'm not a naive individual that says this is the way it will be. It just annoys me the way the world was formed in the first place. It hasn't been. It's not fair at all. It's not, because I often feel anyway that if companies could push it to a 6-day week, they would. If they could get you to work every day, probably would. So it means in our own life, and this is where people really need to be realistic with themselves. We are the only ones that are going to take control of our life. We are the only ones that are going to determine our fate and what we're prepared to put up with, what we're prepared to lose to have this. That's a decision for all of us. And I look unhinged an awful lot of times. I know how I'm perceived, but I'm trying to build a life that the average person doesn't have the balls to build. That's just a reality. So I take severe gambles, if you like. If you see it as a gamble, I don't see it as a gamble, because my logical way of thinking just sees no other alternative. I'll think of something and it'll be a great opportunity, and you say, that's great. Oh, well, yeah. Then I think about all the consequences of that opportunity, and then I have to consider the fact that, is it worth that level of sacrifice? Because money's never my determining factor. And I know it is for most people, because again, they've got caught up in the rat race of chasing money. Money helps support our life, but it shouldn't be we give up everything for that money. So I have to consider all aspects of everything. If it can be balanced, then fine. But if it's going to cause such a catastrophic hindrance on my life, then I have to consider whether that's ideal for me, and then be patient enough to find something that does fit my lifestyle. But I say, in this world, it's so hard to find that balance, because the foundation has never been fair for anyone. So again, I did say at the beginning here that I think I said at the beginning, where it's going to seem out of touch with reality to a degree, because our reality has been conditioned in such a way that any notion of living a different lifestyle will seem strange, and it will seem like you're just unhinged and you live in a fantasy world and you're lazy. I've had people consider me lazy my whole life, and I just always in the back. I don't laugh out loud. I've got better things to do than worry about that. It's never put it this way. It's never made me feel insecure. It's never made me feel inferior. So when people project onto me, it really doesn't bother me at all. I've had it my whole life, and I just don't care, because I just know everybody else just lives in this weird box, this mental prison. They don't even know they're in it. I just have my eyes are just always open. I see everything. So I'm not someone that like chooses to defend myself all the time. But I'd say this: someone that's lazy would be someone that does nothing at all. I'm persistent with the work I do. Even when I'm not financially rewarded for it, I'm persistent. If I was lazy, I wouldn't do anything. Now, when I start this job, it's going to be quite demanding on my time. midweek, all, Monday to Friday. It's going to be exhausting. And I still, and that's full time, and more full time than the average person. Some work 40 hours, some work 37 hours. This job's 42 and a half hours with half an hour break. It's not a huge breaks at all. So you're working full time more than the average person. Now, look, I'm not competing. There'll be people that work 70 hours. They're lunatics. Let them do it. I really don't care. When people start projecting their overtime shit, it's like, I don't want to say sort your life out, but sort your life out. That's what that is. It's living beyond your means. It's being greedy. It's being out of touch with your reality. And I don't want to go too far with that. Some people do it just to pay off their debts, and I get it. But a lot of people don't know how to stop. Once they've got used to that lifestyle, they keep doing it. And it's just, that's your own healing that needs to work with that. 42 and a half hours, 37 hours, that's enough. That's enough. It should be lower. I don't care how anyone else sees it. It should be lower. We're taking too much of ourselves for this. To start doubling that and say that's normal, it's not. That's abnormal, and it needs to be healed. You need therapy. Yeah, I'm sorry. Someone that works overtime all the time, they need therapy. You've lost your life to the freaking mundane. You really have. You've lost it to work. You've decided this is your whole life. So you just become here. Think of it that way. We're born. If you don't even think about being born, think of it like a robot, but we don't even know we're robots. Okay. Everybody, you land, you've got autonomy of your life. Everybody can just go off and do what you want. Now, again, life isn't so simple like that. Where we are, again, it's all conditioning. It could even be religious conditioning. It could be all sorts, in family, or anything and everything, societal. And that will influence all these robots. But some robots are so mental, they just find an opportunity to dig for resources. And it's not even, just think of it that way. Even if you're just doing a normal, whatever your job is, you're digging. Think of it that way. You're just digging. So you've got some robots that dig, and all of a sudden they find treasure early, or find a little bit of a gemstone. Again, that's just your money. I'm not talking about your actual gem. But you're working your ass off, and you just find, and all of a sudden, boom, oh, this is nice to have. I can buy something with this. But we haven't got time to go and buy something because I can get more. So you just keep digging. Your basket's getting full. Yay. Look how much I can buy. I can do so much with this. I can't leave. Bang, 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 bang. They just spend their whole life just banging on the wall. That's what that robot's doing. They think because their basket of gems behind them is, which is their bank balance, whatever you want to put, they think that's everything. I think they're mental cases. I just think that is outrageous. So your whole life was built to just work continuously, to just scoop up all the treasure you could gather. And when you die, you think that was a good life. That was mental. That was one that got lost. That needs reprogramming. Then you've got these other robots that go off and find balance. Some will they'll communicate with each other. They have families, and they'll do things, and they're having experiences. And some will get caught up in toxic situations. They're getting abused, so they don't realize they're getting abused. Some will know they're suffering, but they're just so insecure. They don't know what else to do with their world, So I don't know where to go. I've got nothing for myself. I don't know how to start over again. So don't be so scared to start over. Just press the reset button. Figure it out again. Take a different journey. Take a different path. Go somewhere else. Meet some different people. And you get some people that just go off and travel. Maybe one of the first things they see is something beautiful. They go, "This is the life I want. I like it here. How can I make this sustainable?" And then they figure it out. And maybe they don't need so many resources for this beautiful life. You've got all these other people that are sitting in their high-rise offices and all this other stuff, and it's all like really mental. It's just like everyone's just trying to gain money, and they think this is the best. This is a great life. It's stressful. It's toxic. The ones that have figured it out are happy. Again, where we live has a huge bearing. Of course it does, and the rules and governance that surround that. But it's up to us to do what we can to give ourselves that flexibility and that opportunity to be happy, So it doesn't mean, just because you're working in a normal 9-to-5 job that your life's going to be miserable throughout, but it's always have like an exit plan. It has to have a plan in place that's building towards something you want, Yeah. So like, for instance, I'm just going to show here a little bit here. They think about the people that work their arse off and they don't take a break. It's just so stupid. Just because they don't know when to stop. They haven't actually found that ability to detach. And it needs therapy. So I've talked about it a few times now. It's my holiday coming up to create. Love it. This is a photo I took back in 2023. I've been there back in 2024 and I'm going again with my daughter. It's exciting. Now, I love England. I love where I'm from. In the winter though, it's harsh. I don't like the cold. I don't like the dark. I don't like it in the winter at all. Hate it. I like the spring and I like the summer. But when I go to Crete, it just feels it's really nice. If obviously a holiday's a holiday, you're gonna feel that whenever you go on holiday. But I do like the culture. I love the scenic views. And so for me, like if money wasn't an option, if money was not a problem, I would have no hesitation buy a family like a holiday home in Crete, and I would travel there regularly. So me right now, that's what I would do. I would split my time up between England because I still love England, and I absolutely love being in Crete. And then maybe over certain periods of the year, I don't know what Crete's weather is like over the colder months, but if it's not too terrible, I would probably be there for as the spring comes. At different periods of the year. Uh, that's what I would want. But how can we make that a reality? Because that's what you've got to think. I mean, I see it all the time. You see people where they've relocated to another country, the country that they feel their heart calls for, and they're happy. Maybe they don't have as much money as the average people, but you see they're just happy with the life they've built. And I just think that's so refreshing. Again, it's not for us to mirror and copy anybody because it doesn't work for all of us, So me being completely off the grid, it wouldn't work. Like for me, I do my videos here. I could do the books to a degree for sure. I think like my websites and stuff. There's a level of tech that I do like in my life. It's some people that just don't care about tech at all and they can just go completely off grid. And that's great. And I could probably live like that myself, to be totally honest. But if I think, do I like to have these things too, though? Yeah. So it's trying to find a balance between those things, isn't it? But again, that's cultural, that's lifestyle, and that's just finding our pocket in the world. But I just can't help but think so many people just lose sight of life in general, though. And I get worried about it. Like I get worried for America an awful lot. And I know I talk about America a lot. I know people probably think I'm anti-America. I'm not. I'm anti what America has become and what it's becoming. I think the potential there is great. People are patriotic, which is an incredibly great start. They already have the world stage. A lot of the world centers around. So like, why not do good things? Why not be a positive influence? It bothers me a lot that it's this toxic for the most part because of where it stems from. Again, everything's about foundational. It's all about greed. It's all corporate greed. I saw something, whether it's true or not. I saw something where someone said they had to take their child to have their tonsils removed in the hospital, and it cost $100,000. They got a bill for $100,000, and I thought that can't be true. And if that's true, that's insane. So you're always one illness away from being bankrupt. That doesn't even make sense. How is that a positive country? In that sense. And yet we've got all these beautiful. I like Europe. Okay, so I've got a bias there. I do like Europe, and I don't hide from that. If you think about the world as a whole, I know we're going off track here, but the cultural differences around the world, I don't like. I don't like some of it. I think some of it's barbaric. So there's certain religions that are very harsh. There's certain governance that's very harsh, and I just think it's mental. You could be, if just put it into context, in some countries, this is where I think some people are naive. They travel to locations without knowing how dangerous those locations are. If you think about Mexico, people just think, "Oh, I'm going to go to Mexico." I wouldn't go to Mexico. You've got cartels who don't even value life. They wouldn't hesitate to do something, to take a life, just to have something, because it's all about money, power. That's not a friendly country. I wouldn't go there. Similar with Brazil, you get the similar sort of things there. So I think there's this ignorance to the world, not understanding the dangers that exist. And the dangers exist everywhere, but it's like the levels, the severity of. Then you think about countries like in the Middle East. I don't know exactly which ones, but I'm not going in. I'm not even. It's not an area I have an interest in because I don't follow their religion, so I don't conform to their doctrines. And you could be falsely accused of something can have a serious consequence. Some of them just get, as soon as someone's like arrested, they get killed, or they might have their hand chopped off because someone's accused them of stealing, even though you didn't steal anything. I mean, it's just barbaric, personally, I think. So you have to realize that you can sit there and think that it's beautiful everywhere around the world. No, it's not, because other people have corrupted certain areas and made these barbaric places that it looks a level of form of racism and things if you go against it, and it's just an awareness. I understand the dangers that persist around the world, and I consider Europe a very, very fair. It's a fair democracy compared to everybody else. So if you look at sort of Russia and even like North Korea and things, they don't have any. It's all suppressed. It's all propaganda, isn't it? So it's a very suppressed way of living. That's not balanced at all. So again, I mean, that still comes down to the work-life program to work, chase money, but it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? Because it's where society is built and what is the foundation for which we can thrive. And you wouldn't thrive in those environments. It's always very much being thought controlled and manipulated, and you can't move an inch without this and that, and it's just very dodgy. And I don't like none of that. And again, I don't know so much about Asia. I'm not so familiar with it. But the one thing I would say, a lot of their airlines always have problems because it's almost like the infrastructure isn't as reliable or the safety regulations are not as hot. So again, who cares because they're making money? So you have to, again, everywhere around the world has its issues, and it's just being aware of those issues, So for me, what Europe stands for, I think, is everything. So some people might say, I hate my country, I hate this, and you're in Europe, and they don't realize how privileged they are at the moment compared to the rest of the world. And I always think that, just pick different areas of the world and tell me that's better there. Because you have to think about the governance, you have to think about the rule, you have to think about the religion, you have to think about every aspect of it, and then ask yourself, do you have more freedom here than you do there? Because some people get sold a dream. I think America, there's no freedom, there's not freedom. If you're rich, perhaps, but even then, there's so many, like, there's all this political propaganda which stems through to those in power. So even within local governance and then within the police, I've seen so much corruption in America. Believe me, I don't pick at them on purpose, but it's absolutely mental. I've seen police regularly. I've seen this where, let's say, someone's been told by the judicial area, the local area, they've been told your lawn is too long. You need to cut your lawn. And I've seen videos where someone's come to help. They do it free of charge or whatever. They're doing it for a police car would turn up and tell them to stop immediately or you will face arrest. Because you can only do it through an approved provider because that has a link to the police department. So the police department gains financially from the services. That is a crazy level of corruption. And I've seen it multiple times. America is a very strange place. Very strange place with some very weird rules. Got busybody neighbors, and then you go through the whole crisis. I don't want to go too mental with this, but it's all about draining your resources, yeah? So again, one of these big ones is this. I've just read about it, and I just thought, typical America. I don't like hating on America, but it just bothers me a lot with all the way it is. So they're saying that because England are playing a World Cup game, the price is, I think, 12 times higher for a train fare, for just a short train ride to the stadium. Then when you go deep enough into it, I think it's in New York, so the government, whatever, they're saying that it's costing us too much to get them to travel. So and because FIFA, who did the World Cup, won't subsidize it, we're going to have to inflate the prices. And then FIFA's answer is that we haven't seen this anywhere at any time in any sporting event ever in history, where a country, or at least a region or government, has arbitrarily increased the prices and then expect to be subsidized for that increase. So that wasn't never the original price in the first place. You've just times it by 12 times, and now you're expecting FIFA to help give you some money to make it a cheaper price. And reading it, you just like, that typifies America all day long. As soon as an opportunity to exploit someone for money, they do it. People sewage travel all the time over there. It's just, I don't know how people don't get whiplash. It's money. It's the biggest money grabbing country in the world. Other countries have tried to replicate it, and some are already trying. But overall, that's what America stands for a lot of people. It's supposed to be the added opportunity, but it's the land of the takers, isn't it? It's just insane. So when I say America, again, there's good pockets of America, isn't there? Like when you think about if you think about the image of America, there's every state has something beautiful about it. So I'm not saying aesthetically it's not beautiful, but all the bureaucracy and the standards around it, even just the quality of the food and things, the additives and things, it's just crazy. It really is. But America sold an awful lot of propaganda. Again, I know we're going off track now, that they just believe, So when your leader tells you this, your leader tells you that, it's like you're not following the trail though. You're following their words, but not their actions. You have to follow actions. Then you see the truth. So if you think about what America stands for, it's crazy. And then you look at places like Crete, like Greece, and it's a lot cheaper. There's a better quality of way of life. Things are a bit more fairer. I don't know all of their politics and things, but I think of Europe and I just think, yeah, this is far more fairer. There's standards. When you think about even think about aircraft and things, you don't really hear about an issue in Europe, do you? There's issues in America, there's issues in Asia, but you don't really hear it in Europe because the safety regulations are so high in Europe. They care about people more, and that goes even through electronics and things like that. We don't have anywhere near the same issues. And again, I know it's gone off track, but I'm just talking about the conditioning of the world. And yeah, so it gets exhausting. I get exhausted. Personally, I get exhausted every day. And it's very rare that I go to sleep not thinking or saying out loud, I'm fed up with this life. I am fed up every day. Like just trying to carve out some level of what I would consider normalcy, like something normal in a world that's been heavily, indoctrinated, really. Standards have been set, but those standards are not fair. And the world is incredibly imbalanced in so many ways. But yeah, it's up to us to find our freedom.